by asking you about your tweet where you've actually described the US downgrade by Standard & Poor's or S&P as a stupid and poor decision.
Well, you know, there has been a lot of questioning about the timing of this decision and the fact that there are countries out there in the world that still retain a AAA rating with significantly less financial strength and probably much greater liabilities than the United States. So there has been a lot of questioning as to why now and why at a time when the world least needed something to tip it over into the abyss, or at least risk tipping it over into the abyss. So I gather I'm not alone in that opinion.
Right, the downgrade clearly per se may be questionable, but it has clearly brought to light major worries about the overall global economic situation.
No, there is, and you know, Mr. Nouriel Roubini, the famous prophet of doom, clearly seems to be smiling smugly at what's happening around us, because he did warn of these dangers that lay ahead. And perhaps those who thought that we were firmly on the recovery path might have been prematurely optimistic. But at the same time, I still remain less pessimistic than the world. But I think the Fed in the US has clearly signaled that it is seized of the seriousness of the matter, that it will do whatever it takes, including keeping interest rates low, to ensure that the world doesn't get derailed as it did in 2008. I don't think we are headlong into the abyss, but I think it's going to be some long, hard yards that we're going to have to cross before we get back to a very stable economic situation globally.
But Mr. Mahindra, the big question everyone is asking right now, how will the deteriorating economic climate globally impact India? Should we really be worried?
You know, since you referred to one of my tweets earlier, you may recall that day earlier I had also said that there is a silver lining for India in all this, and which is that the downturn, the second downturn in the rest of the world bodes well for India in one respect, and that is in softening commodity prices, particularly oil. The one threat to the Indian economy, the one Achilles heel that we have, is the lack of our self-sufficiency in oil. Unlike Brazil, for example, which is one of the BRICS and which thrives in circumstances when commodity prices are rising. So the fact that oil is again testing the depths of $80 and below, crude is testing those depths, actually is a very good sign for India. It makes our balance sheet look a little better. So softening commodity prices is actually good for India. And something that I had mentioned in our recent meeting with the finance minister was that rural consumption remains strong. The monsoon, in my opinion, and in the information we get from our rural finance company that we have, Mahindra Finance, tells us the monsoon and the effect on crops, in fact, has been averaged to positive. So this monsoon, if it continues to do the same as it's done now, I think the combination of an internal rural consumption story combined with softening commodity prices, in fact, spells good fortune for India.
It's true that Indian policymakers are trying hard to say we're better off than the rest of the world. We're looking at posting 8% growth, which is very decent and respectable. At the same time, we can't ignore the fact that we're slowing down as well.
Well, you know, to be honest, our chief economist had forecast some time ago, even before this current set of events in the US, that our economy would, the GDP would be lower than 8. In fact, she was around 7.5%. And I would say that there's a good chance that we may not reach 8, but your comments still hold true. 7.5% is still a fairly robust growth rate. And as I said, to repeat, if commodity prices soften, if the rural consumption story remains strong, India could really live up to its billing as a potential source of growth for the global economy, as an alternative engine of growth for the global economy. That might come out in sharp relief in the next 12 months.
So you clearly feel that 8% growth this fiscal is difficult, it's too ambitious, and it won't happen?
Well, I have great faith in our chief economist, and she, as I said, her target was less than 8, was 7.5, and I don't think that's bad given the circumstance. So yes, I would back her and say she's been pretty much on target in the past. I think it would be difficult to cross 8% given the circumstances and given the slowdown in the reforms that we experienced and given the slowdown in infrastructure spending and in investment. So I would say it would be a stretch to think we could cross 8. If we did, it would be an outstanding achievement. But with that said, even a 7.5% rate would be pretty good.
Clearly, one of the reasons for the slowdown is the drift in governance, or what some term as policy paralysis. Clearly, inaction on part of the government is extremely worrying.
Certainly, any kind of inaction is worrying. What we need at this point in India is to recognize that despite the adversity that is evident all around the world, that certainly this constitutes an opportunity for India to stand out, to live up to its promise as an alternative engine for growth. And the only way we're going to live up to that promise is if we look like we have the momentum to keep going and to keep fueling our economy. So what we need, in fact, is more reform, not less. We need more action, not less. We need more infrastructure spending. In other words, we need a government to be seen globally as being proactive, cohesive at this point in time, and that's how